All right, folks, welcome back to the Land Fixer podcast. I'm your host, as usual, Logan Swanson, and we have an exciting guest today that we're going to get to in just a minute. Everybody wave and say hi to Bhaskar. Hello. All right, thank you for being here. Folks, as usual, if you need to buy land or sell land, go to primelandexchange.com. We are a listing service for land investors, and you can also buy excellent below retail value and oftentimes off-market properties there. If you are a land flipper and you're looking for funding, go to our company, landpartnerfunding.com. We have excellent rates, profit shares, fixed rates, whatever you might need to get your land deals done, including subdivide projects. And if you have not subscribed, go ahead and hit subscribe. Get your hot podcasts every week coming from the Land Fixer. And go, if you need to reach out to me, go to the landfixer@gmail.com. Okay, I covered it all. Bhaskar, can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you and your company?
Absolutely. Well, thank you for having me, Logan. I appreciate the opportunity to be on your podcast. I'm Bhaskar Pandey, based out of Houston, Texas, flipping land for 3 years now, 2.5 years. We took a break in the middle, had a baby, and took time off. Just took time off to hang and be parents. Um, I was an engineer in a very recent former life, network security engineer consulting for some very large companies, traveling all over the country, worked remotely, and someone threw a land lead in my lap and said, "Hey, this might be interesting. If you buy this, you could flip this." And I just kind of took a gamble, bought something for 4,000, sold it for 8,000, and I was hooked. And I said,
Yeah,
"Wow, amazing. This can be done all the time, so many times." And
yeah.
here I am, quit my job 6 months later and never looked back. Now we've got an office here in Houston. We've got employees on payroll. We have staff here that's commission based. We have a nice little office location. I'm living the dream.
Yeah, and that's really interesting. It's only been 3 years or 2.5 years. With your online presence, I would have assumed you were a decade in or something. You're one of those old timers hanging on, and that's really
I'm
cool to
old.
see. Yeah.
I am old, just not an old timer in the business yet.
Cool. So yeah, one of the reasons that I wanted to have you on specifically is I've interviewed other land investors, and what's very common when you're talking to land investors is they kind of have this broad or generic sort of land company. So I have one, right? So if you go to Prime Land Exchange, you'll see I have land in Colorado and Texas, and some are big lots, some are small lots, and it's not very cohesive.
Right.
Now I've offset that by having a big marketing engine, but
Sure.
a lot of people that are new that are still coming in. There is still room in this industry if people are joining. They're always asking me, what do I do to survive? Like, how do I actually make this a real business? And the business that I always describe to them is similar to what you have, right? You have a business that's very pointed, right? You only operate in Texas, right? I don't even think you are outside of Texas.
We used to be in Phoenix, Scottsdale, in just the major metros in Arizona. And that's where we actually cut our teeth. That's where we did our first few deals, several deals. And then I just brought it home. And
Hmm.
being in your backyard, being very targeted, being very focused helps tremendously.
Yeah, and your company, Builders Land Source, I mean, you are buying land and selling directly to builders, correct?
That's right. That's right. You know, my engineering background had a lot to do with it. I was a network security engineer, and I didn't start making decent money in my W-2 until I really honed into one niche, which was application delivery, uh, which was essentially load balancing, networking requests to applications. It was just a very niche field, and I became one of the best at it. And that's when the money started coming in. Got got paid a very cushy salary for a very easy job from home. I worked for the last 5 years before I quit from home, traveled a couple of times a year, maybe 3 or 4 times a year, got paid very decent money, but there was a ceiling. And I realized the money started coming in my career when I became a very talented engineer in a niche field in demand. And I applied that same philosophy to land too. I saw the gentleman that sent me that lead, his name is Yasser. He's in all the markets nationwide, in all size and all types of land, and he's doing well. But that's because he's been doing it a while. He's got his infrastructure set up to go after
Mm-hmm.
land all over. He's got a big pool of money behind him to be able to purchase anything at any time, anywhere, as long as the deal pencils in. Well, I don't have that. I didn't have that. I didn't want to take as big a risk. I did take a risk with that first land parcel at $4,000, but that was like gambling money, right? You and I both have spent money on much stupider things, right?
Yes.
I have toys laying around that cost more. I haven't even touched, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I took a gamble and it worked. But then I really realized the riches are in the niches. And it just so happened that we chanced upon some builders that were buyers looking for land in Phoenix, Scottsdale, all the surrounding cities. And that's all I focused on. I built a marketing engine that focused on nothing but info lots, very focused criteria. And when those deals started panning out, average deal size was 17 grand in the beginning. Like profit margin was about 17 grand in the beginning. We realized, why not do 5, 6 of these a month and tell my boss to go respectfully F himself, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's what we did. Q1 of 2022, we just went out all out in marketing, texting, cold calling, and we started locking up lots of these contracts. And we ended up reverse engineering the process by having buyers first, builders first. So before I was blindly marketing, I was actually trying to connect with builders that may be looking for land. And if I understood where the demand was, it was really simple to point my machine specifically targeting those areas. So it just started working out. I had some talented acquisition people that I trained. They had exact criteria. We built a calculator that was taking comps. We punched those comps in. It would give you the anchor price. It would give me my max offer price. As long as my acquisition agents made an offer, signed a contract with the seller between those values, we were going to make money. And I call it the land value calculator. It's a proprietary tool that I've built and I use it for my business. But occasionally I feel generous and I give people, a copy. So if you have anyone on your podcast that wants to get a copy, have them reach out to me. I'd be happy to share a tool that could potentially help them in their land valuation. And that was it, man. Just we kind of dove into info lots, mastered the art of info lots, figured out ordinances, figured out surveying process, figured out use cases, figured out replatting, just anything I could do to find the best piece of land that I could sell for a profit. We did. And now all we have is builders as our buyers. That's why we decided to call ourselves Builders Land Source.
Yeah. There's a very popular book called Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. And the first thing is start with the end in mind.
Right.
So when you're building a business, you can start with who you're selling the land to, and you know what they're willing to pay for that land.
Right.
The math's easy. Like
Super.
you're just reverse engineering, and then you probably establish some sort of minimum profit into each
Right.
deal.
Right.
And how do you lose, right? Then it's a matter of due diligence, knowing specifically the requirements that the builders have.
Right.
And then the more you do deals with them, the more
Easier
you
to
learn,
get.
yes, exactly what they're looking for. Here's the things that cause hangups.
Right.
What may look like a pretty modest grade from the street view can actually be very expensive when it comes to foundations or dirt work or things
Absolutely.
like that. And all of a sudden, this is something that's very repeatable.
100%. Engineers work a certain way. I take pride in my background because helped me create a framework that I can just apply and it became a template. And we don't really veer too far from that template. We know what works, we know what we buy, we know what our builders want. We have that calculator, we have a template we use for our diligence. I call it a 4-layer approach to doing diligence. We start with the layer one, 4-layer approach. Layer one is essentially just validating facts about the property. Who is the owner? Am I talking to the owner? Is the owner's claim about the property matching what the county says about the property? Layer two is viability. We look at what can be done with this property. What are my exits? What can I value add? Is it in a flood zone? Does it have enough frontage? Does it have a massive site prep cost? Like you said, do we need to demo anything? Is the grading steep to where the builder is going to have to spend significant more amount of money? Is it going to have a shared driveway possibly, or is it going to have individual front loaders? Does it require, do we see any obvious encroachments or our properties or building lines encroaching on the neighbors or neighbors' properties encroaching on ours? Are there going to be potential issues after the survey's done? So we try to preliminarily anticipate as much as we can. Layer 3 then goes into valuation. We look at comps. I'm a licensed agent now, but before we were agents, we still found ways to find, sold values, for sale values, and come up with our best estimation of what this property could potentially sell for in an open market. And how can I bring the builder's value by giving them a discount? If I'm going to give them a discount, I have to be locked up at a significant discount myself. So creating that delta for ourselves. And then layer 4 diligence is once we've got the seller to agree, we dive way deeper into the property. And then we do what we call the deep due diligence, look at deed restrictions, we look at HOAs, we look at title issues, we look at unpaid taxes, anything that could cause the deal to not close or have the expectation of what needs to be brought to closing significantly differ from what we are, looking to bring to closing. So this 4-layer approach combined with the land value calculator has worked every time.
Yeah, I mean that's very all inclusive, and there's a couple things I want to say here. So, man, you go so fast. First, is the being a real estate agent beneficial? Isn't there some sort of maybe legal complications that could have being an investor and an agent simultaneously?
So that's what the popular belief is. The golden rule is disclose everything, right? We disclose the intent from the beginning. If I'm buying, I let them know I'm an agent that I'm buying. I'm not representing any parties. And if I buy with the intention of wholesaling or flipping or reselling or value adding or developing, I let them know at the time of contract signing. They actually sign a piece of paper that they acknowledge saying, I have the intention to resell this for a profit. And I am a licensed agent. I'm not representing anybody. So everything we do has been based around ethics. We didn't want for our name to get tarnished in any way. If you look us up on Google, Builders Land Source Houston or Builders Land Source Texas, we have 54 5-star reviews in just a short span of time. I think Builders Land Source actually has only been in existence about a year. Before that, we were just called a generic real estate company.
Yep.
When we realized the money was in the niches, we rebranded. And it just so happened the domain was available, the DBA was available, the branding just worked. I'm a designer by nature as well, so I design all of my branding myself. I have a younger brother who's got an MBA in marketing, graduated summa cum laude from UTSA. He helps me with I give him ideas, he puts them onto paper. So we just had everything available to make this brand shine. I bought a Corvette recently. I'm very excited, and I
What?
punched my logos are on my Corvette, so they turn heads every time we go, and we take them to events, builders events, and that brings in additional business. So we're trying to do as much as we can with this brand, with this badging, and it's made us unmistakably recognizable here in Texas. It's funny, you said Prime Land Exchange. I have two groups. Land Exchange is my branding for the community. So I have a website called landexchange.info, and Texas Land Exchange is my group, about 8,000 people in there. Arizona Land Exchange is another group of mine, about 5,000 people in there. And I'm attempting to buy landexchange.com or texaslandexchange.com, but the gentleman won't give it up. So branding is absolutely the key, right? So ever since we designed this, it's like the floodgates opened.
Yeah, so it's all cohesive. That's the benefit. And a lot of people don't see this, right? Because, a lot of people are going to go through some sort of guru course, and that guru course is going to explain how to buy land. And then they're going to say that it's hard to invest your land and money poorly, right? So anytime you buy land, there's going to be a buyer, right? And And there is credibility to that. I think
Some
land
truth
is a
to
very
that. Yeah.
safe investment. I buy and
Yeah.
hold land. It's good. But to make money in land flipping, you have to do the flip. You have to be on a
Mhm.
timeline.
Yeah.
And it has to be repeatable, and it has to be something that you can, unless you can go do deals regularly, you cannot build an infrastructure for a business, and so then you'll never be able to build anything that you can walk away from.
Yeah.
Um, so I think you did everything correctly. You started with the end in mind. You thought about, okay, how can I make this into an entire brand? And this is just one example of it. You could have an entire brand that's based around cabin land or mountaintop land or Texas lake land or whatever specific product, or maybe even just a specific area, whatever it might be. And then all of a sudden, your efforts are allowed to stack upon each other. So when
Right.
you build your buyers list of builders, every time that you have a property that comes to market, or probably it never even gets to market at this point, you probably just blast it out and somebody raises their hand and whoever puts the money down first gets it, right?
Absolutely.
Um, then you know exactly the product type that you're buying. You know exactly everything becomes very cohesive. And I'm
Right.
assuming maybe, and I guess we'll get into this next, but there's a very obvious trajectory for you, right? Now you're flipping infills right now, but what's next? Are you planning to maybe develop communities or entitle
Absolutely.
communities, things of that
Right.
nature?
So small entitlements are next. So in Houston, there's an initiative for high density building, high density walkable cities, and they're allowing there's very regular updates and changes to the building ordinance here, and they allow lots to be split into smaller lots as small as
Hmm.
2,500 square feet. And depending on the frontage available, you can do a bunch of different things with that land. So if we end up buying something that's 5,000 square feet, allows me enough frontage, we can replat that and turn it into two lots that can now have twice the improvements on it. And those houses still sell for the same exact amount of money that a house on a 5,000 square foot parcel would have. So essentially, I've now doubled the value of the property, or it's made it twice as attractive for a potential builder. So this small subdivision process of replatting lots, city lots, is next, only because the time frame is short. It takes
Hmm.
about 3 months to complete. It's not terribly expensive. We understand the process, and while we would be taking some risk, it's a very calculated risk. And truth be told, man, a lot of people are in the land business bootstrapping their own cash for land.
Hmm.
I've only ever bought two properties. I've probably wholesaled hundreds of parcels by now.
Yep.
I've only ever bought two properties myself with my own money. One was that $4,000 lot that I started on, and I got such a great deal on two lots, I couldn't say no. So I bought them for 35,000. I bought two lots, which we ended up selling on seller finance, on owner finance for, I think, 55,000, 10-year, 10% interest, 30-year term. It's cash flowing beautifully. I couldn't say no. It's going to turn 35,000 into 150,000 over 30 years, right? Every other deal has simply been a double close with pass-through funding where we take the buyer's funds and pay our seller. I don't necessarily wholesale anything. There's an inherent risk in wholesaling, which a lot of people don't understand. We double close stuff. And if I need to, I can bring transactional funding. I've got some lenders available, some lines of credit available. At the end of the day, man, there's very little risk in what we're doing as long as you're following the rules.
Yeah, and actually, I've never had anyone explain this on my podcast. So there is a difference between wholesaling and double closing, which is what you're talking about. So can you explain the difference between those two?
Absolutely. So wholesaling is you're assigning your equitable interest in a property. You have equitable interest, you create equitable interest in a property by contracting the property and putting some sort of interest in, which is usually EMD or option fee. In Texas, earnest money is optional, option fee is not. So we usually put some sort of option money, some sort of EMD as well, which creates equitable interest in that property. It essentially says, I have equity in the deal, which I can do something with, and I have an agreement on that property. Now, by default in Texas, all agreements are considered assignable. However, you can owing to the changing landscape of wholesaling due to some unscrupulous wholesalers, now it is generally recommended, although not legally required, to disclose your intention for wholesaling. So assignment of an agreement is essentially you taking your equitable interest and you replacing yourself, removing yourself from the contract, selling that contract to somebody else for an additional sum of money, locking up a property for one price, bringing a buyer for another price, essentially getting the delta, but you have no control over that transaction. You're not in the chain of title. You're not necessarily privy to what happens between that transaction between the seller and the buyer, unless your contracts explicitly give you permission by the seller and the buyers for you to be able to be in the loop. The title company has no obligation for them to explain to you, tell you what is happening. You have no ability to help curate title issues either. At the end of the day, any mishaps could backfire on you because you're necessarily not, you're operating, you're brokering without a license at the end of the day. With double closing, it's different. I'm buying and I'm reselling, but I'm making both transactions close at the same time at the closing table, right? And what's even better is if you have some great title companies, you have good relationships, they allow you to do pass-through funding and pass-through title policies, which you still don't even have to bring your own money to buy that property yourself. A lot of people use transactional funding and give up 1 to 2 to 3%, which is significant, right? Minimum of 2,500 plus a few points, and it's just, it adds up. Not that there's anything wrong with it. In a pinch, if you need cash, by all means, go to a transactional lender. But if you can do an A to B, a B to C simultaneous close with C's funds paying A, because your title company allows for that pass-through funding with the right disclosures, of course, you never have to bring any money. You could only invest in lead gen and start making a lot of money by mastering that process. And everything I do, I'm a stickler for legalities, following the statutes, following the laws. So we don't have any fly-by-night contracts we wrote ourselves. Everything is done on promulgated contracts. Even when I wasn't licensed, I did everything on track contracts. I did do a lot of deals on my own 2-page contracts, which it took $40,000 loss to realize I shouldn't have done.
Oof.
We lost a deal. The seller went ahead and sold to somebody else because we took too long to close or find a buyer for. And my contracts were not well written, didn't offer any protection. I didn't put any option fee down. I put $10 down as option, locked it up for 2 months. I took the contract to my attorney saying, what recourse do I have? The seller sold from underneath me while he was under contract. He said, if I take this contract in front of the judge is going to say, how many of these are you doing? Because you're technically, you might be doing, committing fraud. By locking up somebody's property for 2 months, you don't necessarily giving them enough consideration in return. Even though you could argue that's what was mutually agreed upon, at the end of the day, I'm not there to argue with a judge. I want the judge to see my intention was right from the beginning and I'm not breaking any laws. So we switched over to promulgated contracts. It's so easy to not be lazy, Logan. It's so easy to just read, understand what the document says, fill it out the right way, and then you never have to worry about these mistakes that can happen. So I lost a $40,000 deal where I was under contract for 40. I had a buyer for 80, but he sold it from underneath me because I took too long and there was nothing I could do about it.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, if I tried taking legal action, I could have gotten in trouble.
Yeah, that's usually okay. So a lot of people talk about wholesaling, and there's courses that also teach that. Like, all right, if you're getting into land, start with wholesaling. And I've never really done. I guess I've done a few transactions like that, but unless you have like a certain finesse, it can be tricky. So let's start there. So when you're this sounds insane to a lot of people, right? They're like, oh, you have somebody that you sign a contract with, and then you go sell it and you make the difference. Well, why doesn't person A just go sell it to person C? Where's your value? How are you doing this? And I think a lot of it comes down to, one, how you're broaching things on the front end with the original seller. So could you kind of walk us through how you have those conversations?
Yeah, it's real simple, man. We never pretend to be the end buyer, number one. We are always sourcing land for builders. So we make a phone call. I'm sourcing land for some builders that are looking to build in the area, and I want to see if you'd consider selling yours. Did you have a price in mind? If they give me a price that's already within my operating min and max, I agree with them. There's absolutely no disagreements to be had, which is rare, right? It does happen, but it doesn't happen all the time. But if they throw a price out there, I say, okay, let me run my numbers. For me, all I want to see is interest. If they say they're interested in selling, they show me what I call positive intent. We'll work the numbers, we'll run our diligence, layers 1, 2, 3. And if I see he's interested, the property is viable, I'm going to go back and make an offer. I'm going to make an offer as aggressive as I can be, explaining to him, we're going to do this with as little red tape as possible for him. So I bring value. How? They don't pay any commissions. They don't pay anything other than any liens that exist or any back taxes that are owed. They don't pay any closing costs. They don't have to deal with realtors or people showing their properties. They don't have to sign lengthy contracts. They don't have to worry about everything's a white glove service, basically.
Mm-hmm.
But it comes at a cost of giving me a discount enough to put my fee on top. But in return, I can make that transaction happen way faster than most land investors can. Most land investors need 6 months, right? They need 3 months to close these deals. I'll get it done in 30 days or less. Sometimes
Yep.
I've got transactions done in 7 days. Give me a survey that you have on the property. I'll get this closed next week. You don't have a survey? I'll take a week to get a survey and I'll take a week to close as long as the price is right. And honestly, death, disease, divorce, disability, I'm sure there's other Ds out there, can cause a person to take the offer you make if they have need. And we let them know, I intend to resell this. I'm going to make some money. I'm doing this to feed my family after all, right? So I hope you understand that I'm going to make some money by selling this to a builder. I'll just tack my commissions on top. The builder will pay me my commissions, but here's what I'm willing to pay you. If that makes sense, every phone call gets recorded, Logan, so we can't have anyone go back and say, well, I never agreed to that price. Or you never told me what my property was worth. Your property might be worth more. Here's what I'm willing to pay for it because I need some room to make money for my family.
Yeah.
That's it. Simple pitch.
So much stuff to kind of build on there. So first off, where did you start, right? Cohesive brand. We are the builder's land source. So that same brand recognition works for you on the front end and the
100%.
back end. And a lot of people, myself included, were trained that you should have like 2 companies effectively. You should have a buying company and a selling company so that nobody knows what's going on or no one can really track the value of their property. And I always kind of resented that. It's like, are we really in this to play games, or try to manipulate people or try to, hide how we're going to make our money? Or are we going to be transparent and actually be of service? And in fact, I have talking about why would someone be interested in selling at a discount to somebody who can get it done quickly and overcome hurdles? Well, I mean, that is like the best thing. People do that all the time, whether it's taking a car to like, what's the car?
CarMax.
CarMax, take your car to CarMax because there's no BS there, or even go pay more for a car because you don't have to negotiate with anybody. I am doing this right now. I have 8 properties that I'm trying to wholesale, and I'm going to take a cut. I'm going to lose money on them because I need the cash now. I could sell them on terms and make much more money, but I need the cash now. So I'm going to go. 110% makes sense. Now,
Absolutely.
Is that everybody? No. But is that a lot of people? Yes.
Absolutely. And you're not, at the end of the day, there's nothing unethical about what we're doing because we disclose our intent. We disclose that the property is being bought at a discount because that's what we do. And people think negotiating and sales is about changing minds. There's nothing we do that is like coercing people into doing something they don't want to do. We essentially look for people with motivation, okay? And at the end of the day, they are making that conscious decision to sell me their property because they had need and I can fill that need immediately, right? Faster than other people. And we solve problems. We come across a lot of properties that have title issues that we just can't solve. We're working through an adverse possession case right now where a lady owns a lot in a prime location. It's worth a decent amount of money. We're getting it at 40% of market value because we have to go get an attorney to file an adverse possession case, which is going to prove that she's been taking care of the property, paying taxes for the last 10 years. She has a
Yep.
claim to the property. But how many people understand how that works? How many people know how to solve those problems, right? Same thing with affidavits of heirship, finding these
Yep.
people that have interest in a property, getting their buying partial interests out, getting heirship affidavits signed, getting quiet title done in some cases. If you make yourself an expert at these things, you can command a discount because if the lot's worth 100,000, my time, my effort, the attorney costs, the stress, the headaches, the inability that other people have to solve those problems is worth $60,000 to me. What
Yeah.
option do they have?
Right. And if you think about it, like all of this comes down to you because of where you started. You started with the end in mind. You knew who your buyers were. You knew who your sellers were. All of this stuff so cohesive. It allows you to be the expert. It allows you to know how to solve all these issues, be very familiar with every step of the process. And then when you're on the phone with somebody, like I recognize there was a point where things flipped for me when I was buying land, where I went from feeling like I was faking it to the point of where I was like, oh, I'm just
100%.
addressing problems and I know what I can sell it for and I know what I can buy it for. And then that just gives me good confidence for what I'm going to offer. And then it's like I got to the point where my negotiation skills got excellent. As soon as I started saying the same thing to everybody, I was like, I suck at negotiating. I don't negotiate. I know exactly what I can buy this for. I can buy it for this
Right.
amount.
Right.
These are the reasons why. If you're willing to sell it, great. I can make this very pain-free for you. And like that, I mean, it just changed, and I was able to speak
Yeah.
from
There's no
confidence.
changing of the mind. Like there's no
Yes,
NLP and all those techniques exist. At the end of the day, detach yourself from emotions, follow the numbers, be very factual, be very transparent. It works every time. I just had a conversation with a seller. We're working on closing on this property on the 27th. It's about a $30,000 margin for us. It's a pretty decent deal. We're partnered with somebody that is bringing a buyer and they're making a decent chunk on it as well. But the seller's impatient. And then we just learned that there was a discrepancy in the legal description on the deed and the legal description filed with the county. And to fix that, we need a survey, and a survey is going to help correct the deed. And that's going to add some extra time, and the closing might potentially be delayed past the 27th, which is this Monday. The seller's not happy. My job is to explain it to him in words that he can understand. And he was like, you guys are always finding some way, shape, or form to delay this closing. And I said, man, if I can't do it, no one else can. And I'm
yes,
telling you, I'm on your side. I don't gain anything by extending this closing. I want to get paid as much as you do. And I'm simply here bringing you in sync with what needs to happen. And it's in my best interest to make this happen as fast as possible. If we do this, or if anyone else does it, they still would have to do the same thing. There's nothing special about what I'm doing. But I'm doing this with a rush. I'm paying a premium to get that survey done so I can make your deadline. All I ask is for some flexibility. Give me a couple of extra days to make sure the survey comes back clean and that you don't have any trouble later on because of an incorrect legal description. Right now, the legal description covers your house as well. I don't want to take your house from you. Would you want that? He's like, nope. He's like, I understand. And that was the conversation, you know? So at the end of the day, like you said, being objective, being fair, we're not negotiating. We're just simply sticking to what I can do, what I can pay. If that works for you, we have a deal. If not, there was times when I was desperate for deals. Thankfully, that time has passed, right? We've been through the trenches. And thanks to the branding, we've got a partner portal. Somebody comes to us and says, I want to work a deal with you. builderslandsource.com/partner with us. Send me your Texas deals. If it works for me, I'll send you a JV agreement. We'll get it sold. If the numbers are right, the contract's been written nicely. If the underwriting is done well, we'll sell it. Or if you have a lead, you want somebody to underwrite, same portal. Send it to me. My team will underwrite it, evaluate it, and we'll still give you a hefty chunk of the profit, right? These things over time, it feels like you said, something clicks, and then you realize, okay, you really do have a business. You're not just faking it.
Yes, it's a clear vision. And
Right.
out of respect for your time, I know you have to get going soon. You told people to go to builders.com, work with us. Is that what it was?
Builderslandsource.com slash, so it's my company's name, builderslandsource.com / partner with us.
Partner with us. And I'll make sure that's in the notes too.
Thank you. And if I can, I am having an event here in Houston on
Okay.
March 15th. It's a land wholesalers event, free to attend. I'm expecting anywhere from 100 to 150 people there. We're going to unveil a massive next gen land sale software, a platform that kind of rivals another platform that goes by the name of Investor something. But it's a land focused platform that has buyers on it already. And it's going to be a massive deal that day. So March 15th, the link's not ready yet, but if they follow me on Facebook, my Facebook handle is just simply the B Pandey. So my first initial, my last name, the B Pandey. I'm gonna make a massive land event here on March 15th. So come hang with me, come hang with some big names, and hopefully I'll see a bunch of people there.
Hell yeah. Cool. Well, I appreciate your time today, folks. As usual, go to primelandexchange.com, buy and sell land. You can go to Texas Land Exchange on Facebook too, and get some there. All right.
It's an open market. I don't really, it's not my market. It's just a community. So yeah, by all means, please push your deal there.
Hell yeah. Cool. Well, I appreciate your time. We look forward to having you back. And I'd love to hear more about your event. So hopefully I can make it down there in March as well.
I would love for you to come, Logan. Come bring your friends, bring your family. Where are you located?
Dallas.
Come on down. Come on
Yeah.
down, man. It's going to be amazing. March 15th is Saturday. It's going to be from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. Free drinks. Drinks are on me. So come network, bring your banners. Hey, I'm still looking for sponsors, by the way. So I
Oh,
might,
sick. Okay. We'll
yes,
talk. We'll talk.
absolutely, absolutely. Awesome.
All
Thank
right,
you for having me.
folks. Yeah, thank you. And we will see you on the next one. Cheers.